Alright, so next we're going to have a quick talk, obviously because it's Fire Talk, the 20 critical security controls as John does his shot and what? Afterwards. What is this? Alright, so everybody give a big shout out for John, fellow new hacker.
Hi. This is the largest audience I've ever spoken to, so you in the firm. So I'm here giving a kind of a blue team presentation. Okay. So this long-winded title, extending the 20 critical security controls to gap assessments and security maturity modeling. I guess you could shorten that to simplified security modeling. Anyway, so one thing I didn't include in the slides is a little bit about myself. I have, I guess, about 15 years of configuration management consulting experience. I then went on to do primarily security engineering. I've done security configuration standards work as well. And then after that, did had responsibility for security operations and engineering for a federal agency. And as part of that effort, learned a few things about the 20 critical security controls and how to apply those. So I was going to share those with you and propose a way to use that as a model moving forward. So I guess a show of hands. Who's familiar with the 20 critical security controls, also known as the Consensus Audit Guidelines, the SANS controls? Okay, so half of you. All right. Okay, so the purpose of this is basically to show using these controls to create base practice statements against which security engineering and operations processes may be assessed for capability and maturity, to provide a model framework to base gap assessments upon, facilitate focused remediation planning, and of course the poll for interest in creating such a model, and see if anybody's interested in participating in that effort. The 20 critical controls, a set of controls that are attack focused, kind of an improvement on the NIST SB 853 approach. They were created by a consortium of government agencies, major corporations, and many others. The complete copy of the controls can be found on the SANS site. Currently, the Consortium for Security Action is an organization engaged in various projects pertaining to controls. So I've listed the controls here for convenience. This is the first of the 20. So I'm going to give some detail on the first one, the inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices, to kind of dissect that. There's 20, of course. The last few are ones that cannot be fully automated, so there's some manual effort involved in those. Okay. So each control has a short title. It's like this example here, inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices. Okay, that in and of itself is not very useful to assess any kind of compliance to. But the detailed sentence there is basically a two-parter. Okay. Then the control document itself, and we'll see what happens when we connect to that. I don't know if it's going to work. So in the control document itself, there's a whole bunch of other information that follows the statement, giving examples of what can be done to implement that control. So it gives a wide variety of things. So that example statement, that two-part statement, I was breaking down into two parts. So it had manage inventory of authorized devices and limit network access to authorized devices. So those are two very specific things that you can assess against. Managing inventory of authorized devices is one thing. Limiting access to authorized devices is another. Okay. Use the term base practice as opposed to best practice because kind of derive this from the system security engineering CMM. control document, there's a lot of details there, but specifically it refers to sections of this SB 853, which are pertinent to that section, or to that control. So to create the actual language for base practice, it would be prudent to go through the entire control language and look at the examples of techniques that are given and look at the specific language of the NIST control to complete the crafting of the controls in the base practice statement. So this is a great example of your capability, maturity level designations here. So basically, I like using level 0 for no process, but technically, I guess most people use level 1s in the beginning. Basically, you want to get to at least the level of 3, where there's a practice that's fully documented, embedded, and in place. A lot of organizations, as you're probably aware, have operational practices, sort of, not completely followed, need improvement. So the goal is to get them to where they're fully documented, fully applied, reviewed, and so forth. So here's an example of what I actually did when I took the controls and tried to apply them. So this is regarding the control number 1. So I actually took it and split it into different sections that applied to the environment that I was in. So asset management, example that I took was as well. Is there a list of servers and where they are? Does anyone here have issues identifying servers? Yeah, so there's obviously issues there, right? And then device authentication, how to know that the device is actually authorized. And then network admission, so MAC and that sort of thing. So basically the different maturity level designations that I had on the previous slide, I assigned the level that applied for that particular environment. And so obviously in this example, network admission, well, probably ought to focus on that a little bit if that's something the organization can stomach. And at least they sort of know where most of their servers are. So this is serves as a starting point for remediation planning in terms of where to start. And obviously, you've already, if it's at level 0, you might want to look at that first. Another approach that others have promoted regarding the controls is that in the document for the controls, there's a section on how to implement automation measure the effectiveness of this control. And then it has quick wins, visibility, attribution, configuration, and advanced. You can refer to those as maturity level. Well, the section doesn't really provide any kind of assessment methodology or any kind of framework. So in my mind, those are more robustness type level information as opposed to process maturity. So my proposal is to focus on taking those critical control statements, dissecting them into base practice statements, and assessing, I guess, at the most primitive level, those statements. So the examples that I gave were manage device inventory, give that maturity level, limit network access, and so on. And of course, your remediation plan based on that. I guess worth noting there is that different organizations are going to have different tastes for what they'll remediate, if they won't, and how they'll do it. Just one great example would be like whitelisting applications. Currently under the new model, 20 controls, the whitelisting is at the top of the priority list. Well, that might not work for everybody. Anyway, so this is the basic model of these base practices. So it could be extended to utilize those things like the visibility, attribution, configuration, rating, and automation to detail out the robustness level. But I would propose that we want to focus on the architecture and engineering rigor and address a variety of things, including the level of automation, breadth and depth of coverage, integrity, resilience, ability to consume and provide say data, common criteria information, if that's appropriate, whatever else makes sense. I guess first looks good. Okay, first I'll give credits. Special thanks to Tony Sager of the Consortium for Cybersecurity Action for his input and encouragement to promote this model. And of course, any copyrights and so forth that I mentioned pertain to those owners, and of course the critical controls are the Creative Commons license. So the purpose of this presentation is basically to present this proposed model. The three components being create the base practice statements for each critical control, whether or not to extend the model to define robustness levels and define the assessment method. And number three, to create tailoring guidelines. So the big question is, does this approach make sense? And would anybody use it?
So one of the problem that I have with models like this is that they tend to be very binary. So let's say you have an enormous organization, and maybe there's one department where that's not at the maturity level. What's the overall score? You have to decide whether you're going to do the least common denominator, in which case you're not mature enough. Are you intending to put any sort of gradation, or fuzzy levels into the sort of assessments that you can account for that?
And so I think the question is, does this apply to an entire company versus a department? How to address that?
Nobody's ever 100%.
Right.
So
Yeah. My initial focus was on the security operations and engineering front line. And I think the most interest in this as a model is for initial assessment. I guess from that perspective.
I noticed in your compliance you have kind of the normal levels that we usually have, and a lot of people like to be in 3 as practice, but a lot of times those policies and procedures are just checking the box in name only kind of compliance. Do you have any kind of mechanism for trying to get away from that certification and accreditation also?
So the question is to checking the box approach and whether or not that's actually being reviewed. I think that's where the level 4 process maturity level comes in. It's reviewed and checked and vetted out in more detail on an ongoing basis. So things like various incidents with occur. What else?
Consider taking the upper CNM models and actually applying things like the resilience models to it, because what this basically says, pretty much this is how we can work into at least the 4 and 5 group based on the resilience models that might use apply to process. You could actually make apply this particular model on
And so the question pertains to whether or not consider applying resilience models that I've been speaking about. Haven't been 100% on top of that, but I have some familiarity with that, and I think that's a very good idea. That's part of the resilience component of the robustness level we're referring to, with the level 4, level 5 review we bring in, that sort of activity. I think one more minute. One more question. Yeah.
On stage, where is he? Scary.
Oh, there'll be ample time for training during this presentation.
monster and ear.
All right, so, okay, can anybody remember the name of the site that I run?
No hackers?
Okay, that doesn't have a wristband. Okay, sorry. Wristband, okay, what? All right. D. All right, this gentleman up front, this is the, there you go. Any other wristbands that you can give it out? What? You have